everyone, this is GSTE. Just a quick disclaimer, this is going to be a very critical review, not a vague, short review. I'm going to do my best to analyze the special and practical effects while criticizing them just as if they were an actual film. So this is the end of this disclaimer, and I hope you like this video. The first thing I want to say is that the reason why I made this video is because I saw this video and this guy said that more people need to talk about this short film. So here I am, ready to talk about it. And I'm gonna give my thoughts on basically all the stuff in it. The next thing I'd like to mention is that the full video of this fight is basically almost impossible to find. I don't really know why, but it's not really anywhere on the internet. So let's get into the review. It starts off with the flower disintegrating. The effect is probably pretty easy, but it looks really good. Next, Sledge falls on the ground for some reason, and then they show Hedorah behind some buildings. He absorbs the smog and shoots out pollution, which looks pretty good too. And then Godzilla shows up, but first let me comment about the Hedorah suit. The smog monster suit looks as good as it did in 2004. As for Godzilla's design, not so much. I'm pretty sure this isn't the original 2004 suit because the head is a little smaller than the one in 2004. And the neck is a little shorter, making this suit look a little weird and kind of short. Unlike the original one where it looked really tall and skinny, this one kind of looks a little bit wider and the head's a little closer to the body, so I don't really know if it's the suit. And also the head looks a little different. The head doesn't really look exactly like the original one. It looks a little bit weird and something feels off about it. For example, the Space Godzilla, Mogira, and Destroyer suits all look basically the same from about 30 years ago, compared to like the 17-year-old Godzilla suit, which kind of leads me to think that this isn't really the suit from 2004, mostly because of all the differences in it, and it just really doesn't look like it that much. It resembles it, of course, but it doesn't have the main features that I would expect an older version of the suit to have. But moving on from that, the title screen comes up, and it kind of reminds me of like the 1991 Godzilla title screen. And also something to add here real quick. This title screen looks almost exactly like the 1992 Mothra title screen, except the only difference being is that the 1992 one I think looks better. Found that really strange how even like the light comes in at the same way and then it turns in the exact same way. And even the letters look very similar, so that's kind of strange a little bit. But yeah, let's get on with the review. Next they have some really cool zoom-ins of Godzilla and Hedorah, but they go into low angles moving with Godzilla and Hedorah behind buildings. I think the low angles here are really unnecessary and distract too much from the fight, as well as the dizzy-inducing camera, plus a super low angle. I don't like this angle at all, and I don't think it's that good. Next they have the camera following Godzilla's arm, which is actually really cool, switching to a good zoom out, showing the punch that landed. If I had any criticism about it, I would say that the punch looked like it was going to destroy his lower body, and then they zoom out and it hits Hedorah's head. But overall, that was a really good scene right there, where they follow Godzilla's arm and then it punches Hedorah. That's the kind of stuff I would like to see, not like the stuff where they hide stuff behind the buildings. Next, Hedorah uppercuts Godzilla, but it didn't really look like the punch was close to hitting Godzilla, especially when Godzilla's reaction to the punch was really delayed. But next they show an incredibly well done punch with a pretty good kick as well. Then they go into the worst camera angle I've ever seen, and it lasts 34 seconds where they either barely show the monsters at all, or they just show a little bit of them for a second. Also, the atomic breath is easily the worst atomic breath in a Godzilla film, and it doesn't really have any depth, and it looks like it's being rotated, not like it's coming from like a moving source on the ground. And its coloring is not that good either. It looks very solid, it looks flat, and it doesn't really look blended into the environment around it with any lighting or on anything or anything like that. I actually recreated this scene. Of course mine isn't as good as movie versions, but I think it's better than this one. Moving on from that, Godzilla falls to the ground and Hedorah sprays Godzilla with smog. I assume that's what it is. And this scene right here reminds me of when Rodan is on the ground and Godzilla is walking towards him, meaning that I like the angle. Hedorah melts the metal tower, which looked pretty cool, but Godzilla's kicks right here didn't really look like they hit Hedorah, especially since Hedorah has a delayed reaction to it. Hedorah falls and gets electrocuted, which this effect is the first effect that actually matches some of the 2000s effects, and it looks pretty good. And Godzilla's atomic breath looks a lot better right in this one scene, but it's not really as good as like the 90s or 80s ones, but it's pretty alright. The explosion scene is really cool with the lights and explosion. It reminds me of the scene where Rodan is being shot by Mechagodzilla 2, since it like has like the outline of Godzilla, but with Rodan it had the outline of Rodan. I thought that was really cool. So that's about it for the events in this short film, but I am far from done with this review. The next thing I want to talk about is the models. While they are well detailed for the most part, they make Godzilla look extremely short with how small the buildings look. The models here can't be more than 10 stories tall, which is less than half Godzilla's 2004's height. I also think it has something to do with the angles that make them look small, but it's mostly the buildings. For example, in Final Wars, Godzilla towered over all the buildings that were 10 stories tall. And they showed this with multiple things, like the models and the camera angles. Also, I think the last thing I wanted to talk about is Godzilla's character change. Now, you may ask, what character change are you talking about? And to that, I would respond that the character changed from Godzilla Final Wars to this short film, especially since this is supposed to be the same Godzilla. Now, since I have studied the fighting style of Godzilla Final Wars for my Heisei Godzilla 1989 vs. Final Wars comic book, I can say that this is not how Godzilla Final Wars would fight at all. The first thing is that Godzilla runs towards Hedorah, which, that part is good, but then Godzilla grabs Hedorah and then pushes him back for some reason. Final Wars would have tried to throw Hedorah, or if he did push Hedorah back, he definitely would have dodged Hedorah's slap. Godzilla Final Wars would have had no trouble with Hedorah, and would have destroyed him with ease. So at least they could have had Godzilla dodging everything, and then Hedorah managing to hit Godzilla with Smog, which allows Hedorah to have enough time to attack Godzilla, or something like that. But right here, it wasn't really that well done with Godzilla's character, and it doesn't really feel how Godzilla Final Wars would have actually fought. So yeah, that is it for my critical part of my review. Critically speaking, and holding it to the standards of a film, even from the 90s, it doesn't really come close. But not critically thinking, is a decent Godzilla short, despite huge problems that can't really be ignored even when not judging it critically. But have you ever seen the Godzilla 2000 short? It looks like 10 times better than what was done here. And this was done like multiple years before this one. It had Godzilla, Gigan, Anguirus, King Ghidorah, and all the suits looked just as good as it did in the original films. And not to mention the atomic breath effects were on par with the same effects for Godzilla's atomic breath in the 2000s. So overall, this Godzilla vs. Hedorah short is decent at best for me, and it was nice to get some more suitmation again, but it wasn't really that well done here, I don't think. So that's it for this critical review, and thank you for everyone for watching this, and be sure to check out my Godzilla 1989 vs. Final Wars comic book. It's pinned in my main page, and you could just go through my videos to find it there if you need to. So thank you for watching, and see you guys later.